The U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, recently released a report expressing significant concern about the mental health impacts of social media on young people. But are the risks actually that serious? Hi, I'm Dr. Adeline Leon, licensed clinical psychologist with Mental.Health.Merienda.
And I'm Michelle Young, licensed clinical social worker. So Dr. Murthy's report mentions research that shows that teens who spend more than 3 hours a day on social media face double the risk of anxiety and depression symptoms.
That's really concerning, especially when we consider that the average social media use in teenagers is up to 4.8 hours per day, so significantly higher than 3 hours.
And 3 hours is already a lot, don't you think?
I know. It is. Yeah, it is. So there's a few specific ways that social media can affect the mental health of young people. And first one is body image. A recent report shows that nearly half of teens report that social media makes them feel worse about their bodies. It's that constant comparison, exposure to idealized images, all of the filters, celebrities that have had so much work done, fillers, plastic surgery, and photoshopped, and you're comparing yourself to these unrealistic images. It can have such an impact on your self-esteem and body image.
Yeah, and especially, even for adult women, like you and I are adult women, and I think these images still are impactful to us, and we make the mistake of comparing ourselves to people with these unattainable beauty standards. But if we as women, as adult women, feel this way, can you only imagine how it feels for a tween kid, a teenage girl? It's even worse, and they don't have that. Some may, but for a lot that are younger, don't have that capacity to take a step back and think like, oh, hold on, they've had work done. They have a stylist. They have, someone, doing their makeup, and there's something called Photoshop. So I think they also don't have that ability to take a step back and realize that like things that they're seeing aren't necessarily real, quote unquote.
Yeah, they don't have necessarily the same coping skills. And at that age, you're already so self-conscious. And that's, I think, it can really play a part into that. It really plays into the insecurities that young people in that age range already have.
Right. And definitely for, as someone who's a mother of a tween, 12-year-old girl, that's her age currently. That's something that I really worry about. And, that's a big reason for me why social media is not something that she has access to at this age. So another impact is on school performance. So Dr. Murthy points out that schools are now having to ensure that classrooms, that they're able to have learning and social time that are phone-free experiences, because we want to make sure to safeguard those real life connections that kids are supposed to be making, and as well as learning, just overall learning. It's really hard to learn when you're distracted on your phone, or if you're scrolling through your phone and you're hiding that under the desk. So actually, where I live in the LA area, Los Angeles area, and our school district, so LAUSD, that's Los Angeles Unified School District, recently made a decision that in 2025, they're going to be banning cell phones in all of the school campuses. Which actually, it's a huge step. I'm definitely, as a parent, all for that. I think that's great. I will find out down the pike, what those details are. But I think that's a great example of, a school district taking a stance and how it's going to impact the community. So it's not just on one parent to make the decision that, I'm not going to give you a phone to my high school child, but, there's going to be some certain expectations that are held among all the kids that go to LAUSD, that when they're in school, they're not to be on their phones.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the impact of that, because Dr. Murthy, I listened to a podcast where he spoke about this report, and he mentioned that when he was visiting universities and going to the dining hall and visiting schools and going into the cafeteria, I remember when I was a kid, the cafeterias were so loud. Whenever the principal would walk in, everyone would
chatting,
get really quiet.
Yeah. Except when an adult comes in.
Right. Yeah. For us, it was the principal, because everyone was like really kind of intimidated by the principal. And now he said that when he walks through these common areas of schools, they're quiet. They're pretty quiet because most people are on their phones. And so you're not having that socialization, that interaction, and developing those social skills is just as important as developing that learning and that knowledge and that academic performance. That's a lot of what you also gain from school that you don't gain from your home life. And so I think that I'll be really interested to see what impact that'll have, and hopefully the rest of the country will follow.
Yeah, socialization is such a key part. And where do you get to socialize and figure out those social dynamics is, during recess or during lunch or during those breaks in between classes. And I can't even imagine like the just dead silence because everyone's on their phone, even if like groups of kids are sitting with each other, like there's silence. That's wild. That's wild to me to think, and I can understand then how like some of these things impacted his decision making on making this report.
Me too. And so let's not forget about the addictive nature of social media too. So all of the features like push notifications, autoplay, infinite scroll, they can have such a huge impact on developing brains and contribute to excessive use and this almost addictive behavior. So I've mentioned this in other episodes, that dopamine hit where you every time you refresh, there's something new, there's something new, there's something new. So it keeps you coming back. And we have to think that these social media apps were developed by some of the most really brilliant people in Silicon Valley, and they put so many resources into the development of these apps and making them so that they are very, very addictive. And that developing brain being exposed to that over and over and over again, that can have a very big impact on their functioning, even for adults, really, but more so for developing brains.
Yeah, I mean, we as adults can attest to how addicting they are for ourselves. And again, this is created to be addictive. They want us to scroll. They want us to keep going on. And so for our kids whose brains aren't fully developed yet, it's a huge concern. And another really important risk that we can't forget is that there's this bigger potential for kids to be exposed to dangerous content. So if you are a kid who's depressed, for example, and you look up, and again, depending on how you search for things, but if you look up content on depression, it's really, you don't know what's going to be shown to that child, right? It could be something like tragic cases about self-harm or even suicide. It might not be stuff about treating depression or how to help. So we can't control what the algorithm shows us as adults, and definitely for children, we don't know what they're going to be exposed to and how that's going to impact them.
Yeah, that's just a really good point to make. And related to that, and even more concerning, is social media can make it really easy for predators to target children. And there's so many different things. You might think, well, what exactly would a predator be able to do to a child, through a phone if it's not in person? They can contact kids to try to meet them. They can contact them to try to financially extort them or their families. There's actually been quite a few recent, I know, there's been a few recent reports, one that I heard of last week, where all of the dangers of social media combined with the dangers of AI, where AI is now being used to create explicit images of children. And so you have a predator who says, oh, I'm going to distribute this picture, even though it's not really of the child. That's pretty scary to have that distributed out in the internet or to your parents or family or whatever it might be. And, oh, you need to give me this amount of money or I'll distribute this everywhere and say that it's really you. It's really scary. Even selling illicitly manufactured fentanyl. There's so many dangers on social media and so many predators, and it's made it really easy for them to target children all over the world.
Yeah. If you think about how kids are being raised today, like in the actual world, people are a lot more strict than at least how I remember growing up. Lots of kids are not allowed to sleep over friends' houses. We rarely see kids like walking home by themselves from school, coming home from school to home. So I think currently, it seems like, in the real world, a lot of parents are really protective of their kids in the real world. But then there's this other world now, this virtual world, this social media world, this like internet world that we're kind of just like letting them like, okay, go ahead, play games, talk to people, be on social media. And in this virtual world, they have so much access to these new predators, like you're kind of saying, that has access to them, that can target them, that can contact them, message them, all kinds of nefarious people. And we have to do a better job of also protecting our children in this virtual world. That's all new to all of us.
Yeah. So just protecting them in the virtual world as much as we protect them in the real world, I think it's really important.
Yeah. So teen girls, another issue is that teen girls are especially impacted by online harassment and abuse, which is associated with then feelings of stress, worry, and anxiety. And there's actually a report that 6 in 10 adolescent girls say that they've been contacted by a stranger on social media platforms in a way that made them feel uncomfortable. So it's pretty high on Instagram. We see like 58% that's happened. And then second to that is Snapchat. But again, kind of talking about protecting our teen girls from that virtual world. is that now it's just easier for them to get this online harassment, people commenting on their bodies. Again, like who knows who's out there trying to message them, trying to DM them, adult men. Like it's really creepy and awful and really scary to think about.
Yeah, really scary, but also so important to be aware of those risks. So we asked at the beginning of this episode, is social media really harmful for kids? The answer is a resounding yes, most definitely. These are just a few of the risks to watch out for, but there's so many that we didn't even have time to cover in this video. And so tune into our other videos in this series to hear more about how to reduce the mental health impact of social media to your kids. Thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.